Welcome to Money Mondays with Melissa, where we talk about financial empowerment while exploring financial assistance available through local, state, and federal governments each month with a diverse group of subject matter experts. Chicago, are you ready to get financially empowered? Well, we've got just what you need. Without further ado, give it up for your Chicago City Treasurer, Melissa Conyears-Ervin.
Everyone, and welcome to Money Mondays with Melissa. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a very special month, and you may not have known that it was actually Mental Health Awareness Month. But I have a special guest with me in the studio today, and I am very excited to be talking to this woman on today because we are going to speak about a very important topic, and we're going to talk about the connection between mental health and finances. So today, if you can help me, welcome licensed psychologist Brennan Malec. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ann.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Now, thinking about the unknown can be scary, especially when it comes to our finances. That is why it is important to develop healthy habits as it relates to money and finances. Now, financial stress can affect anyone, regardless of their background. Worry about money and financial matters can have a devastating effect on people and negatively impact their family, life, work, and other aspects of their lives. Now, a study was conducted by Ames Public Health that was shared, and it really stated that people with debt are 3 times more likely to have depression, anxiety, and stress from worrying about money. I want to say that again. And as I say that, Ann is like nodding her head. And I'm certain that those that are listening who may be in debt can relate to this. Those that are in debt are 3 times more likely to have depression, anxiety, and stress from worrying about money. Mm-hmm. We also know that COVID-19 impacted mental health just as much as it did physical health. A 2021 Pew Research study found that as a result of layoffs and reduced income during the public health emergency, 1 in 10 people polled that they were feeling that their finances will never recover from the pandemic. Now, there are so many other statistics that can be shared, but today's conversation really is about solutions and learning more about ways that you can deal with mental health issues that arise from financial stressors. So why don't we kick off with an introduction from Ann? We are so excited to have her. I have to tell you, in my role as city treasurer, I talk a lot about building generational wealth, building wealth today for tomorrow. So having this conversation during Mental Health Awareness Month and connecting mental health with financial health, this is such an important topic. And so I'm so glad for you to join us today. So first, Ann, let's just start off by you telling us about yourself. How did you become to be a financial therapist? And I know that's one of many roles that you have, Ann, but tell us a little bit about yourself and your role as a financial therapist.
Sure. Well, I became a financial therapist probably 8 or 9 years ago. I remember I was reading an article about money in the New York Times. And in the article, it mentioned something called the Financial Therapy Association. And I had never heard of this. And so I Googled it, of course. And I found that it was a group of people. They started from universities in Kansas and in Georgia. And it's a group of professors and graduate students who started to piece this together. How do finances affect relationships? And so they created this association. And so I joined. And what I'm a psychologist and marriage and family therapist also, but I was an undergraduate I graduated with a degree in accounting. So I was an
Wow.
accountant first, and then
Wow,
I
that's
changed everything
interesting.
and became a therapist. So I felt that I had the skills,
Hmm.
and I was really grateful to be able to use um, that part of my brain that I had to study a lot for in college to really develop and help my clients. So
Wow.
it's actually one of my favorite kinds of therapy to do because I can get right into the issue and really be helpful. So
And by the way, I was telling Ann just a moment ago when she told me, "Oh, I'm also a family therapist." I said, "That's awesome." I said, "Yesterday was my husband's birthday, as we talk about May, and it was funny. You just mentioned as well. You're an accountant, and my husband is an accountant by trade.
oh, okay,
So all of
yeah,
this that you're saying, I'm like,
yeah.
interesting. Maybe he'll go from accountant to therapist. But
Sometimes it happens.
that's an interesting transition,
Yeah,
Ann.
it was very interesting. I did accounting for a few years, and I found that it wasn't quite right for me. And then I got
Wow.
a master's degree at DePaul
Wow.
and in liberal studies. And while I was there, I took a class called Resolving Conflicts in Organizations, and I loved it. And I thought, how can I do this? And I asked my professor one day after class, and he told me, you either have to be a lawyer or a therapist.
Wow.
And so I became a therapist, and I got a master's from Northwestern at the Family Institute, and then went on and got my doctorate in clinical psych.
All right.
Yes.
Interesting.
Uh-huh.
So before we take a deep dive into the financial therapy aspect, can we talk about the general aversion that many people have to therapy? Let's just
Sure.
start there, right? I think we need to have an introduction to therapy. Why, in your opinion, are so many people indifferent about seeking therapy?
I think there's still, and there's becoming less and less of one, which we're all very
I
happy
agree with
about.
you about that.
But I think there's still this fear of, it's a fear of judgment, and it's a fear of being seen as crazy. You have to go talk to someone because you can't resolve your own problems, and so that must mean there's something wrong with you. Well, no, we all need help from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's what it really is. There's still this fear of stigma. What if someone sees me? What if someone sees me walking in? They're going to wonder what's going on in my life, and the fear of judgment.
And I think that you're absolutely correct about that. But I like your earlier statement when you said it's more accepted now.
Oh, much.
It's
much
definitely
more so.
much more than when I was growing up.
Oh, sure.
And you think about a lot of even youth trauma that they experience. And in many of our communities, we are not necessarily taught to embrace therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So I can appreciate your statement that things are changing. And I do see that as well. And even in my community, I see that difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are these larger therapy organizations that they will run ads on TV. So it's becoming just more open and accepting, and I think we all benefit from it.
We all need help from time to time. And so therapy is simply that. It's help.
Yeah, from time to time. Because it's very uncommon to have someone in your life that you can talk to for 53 minutes, which is how long a therapy session, where they're not looking at their phone, right?
Wow.
Where they're just listening to you. So I think it's a really special time for a lot of people. And I think it might be the only hour where they just feel completely seen and heard. Yeah. And it's always about the client, right? Yes. It's not about the therapist. And so I think, especially in today's world where people are so distracted by their phones and everything that they have going on, it's a very special relationship that you find in therapy.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now, and when I was speaking during the introduction, I mentioned about my mission is really helping to build generational wealth. And so I do want to look at how the lessons we learn or do not learn in our childhood affect us as adults trying to deal with financial issues.
You know, when I read this question as I was getting ready for the interview, I thought about, our parents or whoever raises us we learn from them how the world works,
Mm-hmm.
and that we learn from them how relationships work.
Mm-hmm.
We learn from them how money works. And so we get a lot of messages from our parents. I mean, our parents, grandparents, aunts and uncles, our first teachers. And that tends to, the brain starts wiring when we're exposed to the same people over and over. And so they teach us how the world works, and that includes money. So we have to think about, and part of the work that I do with individuals and couples who I work with doing financial therapy is I talk about, what did you learn in your own family? What were you taught by your parents? And we do what's called a moneygram instead of, you may have heard of a genogram. We do a moneygram where I will ask people about their relationships with, or how they saw their parents interact with money, what they learned from their parents, what were some of their scariest memory around money. Were their parents savers? Were they spenders? Was there any sort of gambling debt or hidden spending? So I will try to gather this information and help me understand what my client is struggling with. So that's part of what is financial therapy.
And so, as a therapist, what would be your thoughts on how parents and families can begin these conversations to talk about financial health?
I think you start age appropriate, of course. And I remember a few years ago, I saw this little toy, we'll call it this bank for kids, and it had four little coin slots in it, one for saving, one for spending, one for investing, and one for charity. And so I think parents have to, knowing that their children are always watching them, right? What are the lessons that they are teaching? And every family needs to sort of figure out what will work for them. But being able to, and it's also balancing not wanting to worry little kids, about money, or not wanting kids to know how much money families have. There's this real tension.
Yes.
And I was reading some research just this morning about something like 68% of parents are uncomfortable sharing, talking about money with their children. When I was growing up, I have 9 siblings, so there were a lot of us.
Wow.
My parents didn't talk about money other than the messaging was there's not a lot of extra. And so, my mother still doesn't really talk very much about money. So
that's interesting.
Yeah. So I think that's something that parents need to be mindful of, that your child's relationship with money will be formed, shaped by how you talk about money. And also, if I could say, a lot of, and this, my data might be slightly off because I haven't looked at the most recent research, but a lot of states, I should say 20 states in the nation require an economics class in high school, only 20, and only 17 states require a class in finance or accounting. Wow. So I think it's a combination of, it's parents and schools need to work more collaboratively about educating kids, students about money.
Now, this was an interesting point. Before I go to this next question, I want to make certain that everyone really grab hold to what you stated, that parents can and most likely will influence their child's conversation about money, about saving, about financial health. Whether we like it or not, you can and most likely will influence your child's perspective.
Of course.
That's interesting.
Who else other than parents do kids spend the first 18 years of their life with? The messaging is always there.
All right. All right. Now let's take a shift into financial therapy. And for what I have researched, financial therapy is a form of counseling that combines financial advice and emotional support. This is great. Financial advice and emotional support to help people manage financial stress. Can you tell our viewers what exactly is financial therapy? Because I have a feeling you think a little bit differently than what I was researching and found out. So I'd love to hear your perspective on financial therapy. What is it?
We help our clients become more comfortable being fully informed about their financial health or unhealth. It's a combination of psychotherapy interventions and what I might call financial planning light. I don't have a license to do financial planning, so I can't do that.
Understood.
But I will go usually as far as helping clients work on a budget or just talking about a budget. And so we help clients become more comfortable. It's a little bit like exposure therapy, where you're sort of dipping your toe in the water and getting more comfortable with the subject matter. And so we help them behaviorally and relationally, like in their marriages or their relationships with their with important people in their lives. Psychologically, we look for like some core beliefs around money that they likely would have picked up from their parents. And then we also look at the emotions around money and what feelings drive them to usually overspend and avoid looking at their financial situation.
Now, what's interesting to me is with you being a financial therapist as well as a family therapist, many marriages fail because of financial stress. And that's interesting that you look at both perspectives. This is a very interesting conversation to me.
Oh, thank you.
Now, what would you say is the goal of financial therapy?
The goal of financial therapy is to teach, encourage, structure clients to become more informed, more involved, and more insightful about their relationship with money. And I mean, so many people avoid looking at their financial situation.
They avoid it because it can be depressing.
Exactly.
When in fact it's still depressing if you do not address it.
It's just the pile of bills is only going to grow.
That's right.
But if you, information is power here, right? And so I like to help clients do a deep dive, like a granular look. It's very tedious to look at sort of line by line spending on credit cards and on their debit cards. Where's the money going? And what is your spending story saying about you?
Yes. Now, talking about spending story, we briefly mentioned the pandemic. And how it not only had a stress on residents from a physical perspective, but also a financial perspective. Did you see more clients during that time for financial therapy?
I would say it's pretty steady, the number of clients that I get, but I think because of the financial stress people were under during the pandemic, they weren't going to spend it on therapy. Whatever money that they had, right, they weren't going to spend it on therapy. And so I would say I tend to see a pretty steady, the numbers of people who come to me for financial therapy tends to be pretty steady. But again, if there is financial stress, you're likely not going to spend it. You probably won't spend it on therapy, which is unfortunate.
But that leads to a question that I have, a separate question. With many people that have insurance,
yes,
they can see a therapist. Would financial therapists be under that same umbrella?
Yes, because it would be anxiety. it would be anxiety, it might be depression, it might be substance use, because often people cope with their financial stress and anxiety and fear and depression through alcohol, drugs, smoking. We know this. Yeah.
So make certain that whatever insurance you have, you as a viewer, you can certainly contact your insurance company to see if this is something that would be covered. This can be a benefit that we have and don't even know that we have it.
Yeah. I mean, but most clients, when they come in for financial therapy, it's what they're suffering from is anxiety.
Wow.
A lot of anxiety around this, because it's, it's constantly, even if you're not thinking about it, it's constantly running.
Yeah.
You know it, right? You're just not thinking about it. So the avoidance piece with financial stress is really big.
And so you spoke about really the difference between a financial therapist, financial planner, financial advisor. What can be some clues, especially for someone that is listening? What can be clues that maybe they should seek a financial therapist?
If there is a lot of avoidance, if your spending is sort of out of control, if you're not opening your credit card statements, if you're living paycheck to paycheck and always wanting to sort of keep up with your friends, certainly bankruptcy would be another one. And for couples, if you're finding that there's a lot of conflict with money, or there is secret spending, hidden spending, financial
spending.
Infidelity is a big problem.
Like boxes coming from, you order things and then you kind of hide it and throw the boxes out.
That's
secret spending?
Secret spending, yeah. Or one spouse being more involved, doing more management of the family finances, and the other spouse going to them to ask permission to spend. And I like to encourage, when I work with couples, both parties to be equally informed and equally involved. I mean, this is your financial health. And it's just as important as your physical health, right?
So how does worries and fears impact a person's mental health?
Well, worries and fears.
Because we're connecting the financial health with mental health.
Yeah. If you're constantly worried about money and constantly afraid of opening your bills, or you're actually getting phone calls from collection agencies, or you're not able to pay your bills, or a car gets repossessed, or you can't pay down your credit cards, this leads to, a desire to avoid those feelings, which people can do with substances, of course. It can lead to disturbed sleep. So those are the kinds of, the avoidance of the situation is usually what creates a lot of the anxiety, a lot of the fear, a lot of the depression, thinking I'll never be able to get out of this hole that I'm in.
And there's a lot of fear about not only saving money, but paying bills, saving for retirement, making ends meet. Like, how do viewers that are listening, how can they manage these financial challenges? And when I think about that, you were talking about the stress. When bill collectors are calling, when bills are unopened, sitting on the table, that's stressful.
Yeah.
Even though you're thinking you're not going to open it because you don't need the stress, but now opening it, seeing those bills are stressful within itself. And again, even not being able to answer certain phone calls because that phone number is associated with a certain bill collector, that's stressful. How do our viewers that are listening today, what advice would you give them to manage this financial challenge that they may be having?
Well, what I would say, the most important thing that the way that I think I can be most useful to the clients who I see or the people who are watching today is you can't solve the problem unless you know what the problem is. And it's scary, but you're going to feel better once you know what you're dealing with. If you just have this idea of not quite sure how much student loan debt I have, or not quite sure how much interest I'm paying on credit card bills, or that's constantly running for people, right? So you need to expose yourself, open it up, write it down, and then you can come up with a plan. But if you don't know what the problem is, then you can't solve it.
And so ignoring it doesn't help.
No.
Does it make it worse?
It does, because the problems grow. They keep getting bigger as you're not paying attention to them.
Now, we spoke a little bit about children learning early on and really adapting a mindset of money, a mindset of financial health. What if kids are not necessarily positively influenced early on about financial health? How do we help adults change their mindset of money?
Well, the way that we do that is we help them to understand first, what is their mindset around money? How'd you get here? Sort of these core beliefs around money, which we know from research, core beliefs can be modified, right? So you need to figure out what you believe,
I like that.
Where those beliefs came from, and then take action from there. And what needs to change? What do you need to change in order to put yourself on the track that you want to be in? And most likely, it's not magic. It's spending less. It's spending less, and no one ever wants to spend less.
I know.
Spending less or earning more, or both.
I know.
It's like a diet. Nobody ever wants it.
Eat less. What? I just want to lose weight.
Right. Yeah, it's hard.
Right.
It's hard.
Spend less. No, I don't want to spend less. I just want the money to be right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting analogy there. So Mental Health Awareness Month. This is a very important month. And what better time than to talk about financial health being associated with mental health? And as we close out this conversation today, Anne, I do want to open the floor for you. And I want you to leave us with three, if the viewers didn't grasp anything else that was said today, I want you to leave us with three nuggets that can help us as we talk about financial therapy, as we as viewers embrace this concept of financial therapy. Leave us with three nuggets.
Well, I will be repeating myself, but
please do so.
You can't solve the problem unless you know what the problem is. So that's number one. It will likely lead to the need to spend less. Budgets are your friend. Budgets can be fun.
Not the enemy.
And there is help out there by going to the Financial Therapy Association.org. And we have it's a website where you can find financial therapist in your state, and it's broken down by state. So,
but speaking of that, how can we contact you?
I'm Ann Malec at symmetrycounseling.com, or just symmetrycounseling.com.
And I would assume website. Our team is typing that in as well online.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, that is did you say all 3 points?
I think those
I went to asking about your contact information too, because I thought that was very important. And certainly that's all the time that we have today. But I like to have these introductory sessions, and these are great sessions because it may not necessarily be at the top of the minds of many of the people that are watching, but it's an introduction And so certainly we have provided more ways for you to learn more. And if you want to speak with financial therapists such as Ann or others, depending on where you live, you mentioned there are financial therapists all over.
There are.
And so there are opportunities. Check your insurance, see if that's something that is covered. And this is a great way to really focus on changing our lives for the better. If we are going to build generational wealth, leave a legacy for generations to come, we have to change things. And ways to do that is to make those initial steps. And it's never too late.
No.
It's never too late. Don't feel as if you are just too deeply rooted, that it's too late. It's not. There is an opportunity for you to take hold and for you to become financially healthy. And so, Ann Brennan Malec, I am so excited about this conversation we have had today. It was certainly helpful for me. I know that it was helpful for many of our viewers. We will continue these Money Mondays with Melissa. We want to bring information to you that is relevant, and certainly continue to follow us. Our website is ChicagoCityTreasurer.com, where you will find out future Money Mondays with Melissa, as well as our new series, Wealth Wednesdays. We are going to help the residents of Chicago build generational wealth. It is never too late. And this is something that we want to make certain that we are helping, especially we talk about May being Mental Health Awareness Month. So thank you all for joining us, and have a wonderful, safe, and healthy week and month. Thank you so much, Ann, and really a great pleasure speaking with you today.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Money Mondays with Melissa. We hope you enjoyed today's session and found value in the topic of discussion. Follow Chicago City Treasurer on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn to stay on top of all upcoming events. Remember, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Chicago Treasurer's Office at 312-744-3356 or visit www.chicagocitytreasurer.com. We'll see you next time for Money Mondays with Melissa.